Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores coming to y'all with a quick report. There's a lot of rumors going around. Washington could be in on a 3-team trade between the Houston Texans, Miami Dolphins, and the Washington football team. Apparently, the Texans may ship Deshaun Watson to Miami for picks and probably players as well. And then the Dolphins will ship Tua to us for probably way less picks and maybe a player or two. Maybe some weird combination. And with that, the Houston Texans will be able to get rid of a quarterback that already doesn't want to be there. And they would get a lot of really good draft picks in the process to rebuild their team around. I mean, Davis Mills does not look bad. Didn't have a good week last week, but the week before that, he showed some potential. The Miami Dolphins get their franchise quarterback in Deshaun Watson if he plays, and the Washington football team maybe gets a good player along with Tua Tagovailoa in an attempt to find their franchise quarterback. Maybe you have a few games left in the season to see what he can do, just in case if you want to still go quarterback in the draft. But the way I'm organizing this video, first we're going to look at why this whole thing shouldn't happen, why it should happen, then why it will not happen, and then why it will happen. And then I'm going to end it with a summary. But before we dive into this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Also, make sure you check out the rest of the channel. I just reported on Chris Blewett getting signed, Dustin Hopkins getting released, Landon Collins being viewed as a linebacker by Ron Rivera himself, and a big time injury update on this team and some clues as to who may or may not play against the Packers. But without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so first of all, the catalyst for all of this was the fact that it's been reported that the Texans are closing in on a deal that may get done by this weekend to send Deshaun Watson to the Miami Dolphins. No details exactly as to how the deal will get done, what's going to be traded between the teams as far as draft picks, players, and all of that. But apparently, it looks like Deshaun Watson to the Miami Dolphins is in the works. This was already a heavy rumor weeks ago, and then even before that it was a rumor, and so now it's just picking up even more steam. And then like a few minutes after all of those reports came out, suddenly now the Washington football team can be a third-party member, the third team in the trade that would eventually, because I mean the Miami Dolphins will have Deshaun Watson, they don't need Tua, so we will be the team that they would ship Tua to, which is really interesting because then that means we would have the 2nd and 5th overall picks of the 2020 draft. And that didn't work out too well for us last time, where we ended up with Jonathan Allen and Reuben Foster from the same draft, both who were supposed to go in the top half of the draft, but Jonathan Allen arthritis, we ended up getting them in the late teens, and Reuben Foster was like the 31st pick because of injury and off the field issues. So last time we almost lucked up with 2 first-round picks from a draft that we didn't have 2 first-round picks in. Didn't work out, but who knows? Now we got to start with why this shouldn't happen. First of all, his injury history. That's the biggest part of this. That's the biggest red flag that I personally have for him, because he's talented, but the injury history is crazy, especially since it's like a hip thing, and it just seems like it's been nagging him and following him since his college days at Alabama. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, we already have a quarterback on IR with a hip injury. Do we want another one? Do we want another quarterback on IR with a hip injury? Again, yeah, he's talented, but at this point, it looks like he's finding more ways to get hurt than he's finding receivers open on the field. And also, it's not often that quarterbacks fail on one team, go to another one, and end up working out really well. I mean, Ryan Tannehill is one of the very rare occasions of that happening as of late. And even then, without Derrick Henry, I don't know. I like Ryan Tannehill a lot, but without Derrick Henry, I don't know. He's a really good game manager. You could probably say, as far as game managers go, he's definitely one of the best in the league. And he was really good last year. I've had him on my fantasy team for the past 3 years. And this is definitely a down year compared to last year, but it's still a good year. I mean, they're winning games. They just beat the Buffalo Bills. But that's still rare for a Ryan Tannehill situation to work out well. We've seen Josh Rosen, who knows what's going on with Dwayne Haskins for the Steelers. I mean, there's just so many examples you can go down. We'd be here all day. And then also, even on top of that talent, he just hasn't played very well in the field. Granted, last season, he was going back and forth with Ryan Fitzpatrick, whether it be due to injury or, you know, Ryan Fitzpatrick just seemed ready to play more, and whenever Ryan Fitzpatrick was out there, they had a better chance of winning. Granted, it was his rookie year, but he just didn't look good last year. And then this year, he's had such a small sample size, it's hard to nitpick him, but he hasn't necessarily looked great this year either. It looks a little bit better than last year, but again, it's a very small sample size, and it hasn't looked great. It's just improvement. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa has the 36th EPA per play in the NFL right now. Gardner Minshew's 28th, Taylor Heineke's 29th, Taysom Hill is 30th, Mac Jones is 31st, Nick Mullins is 32nd, then it's Jalen Hurts, then it's Cam Newton, then it's Jared Goff, who threw it out of bounds last week on 4th and 4. I mean, like, I don't know what, I mean, like, purposely threw it out to get rid of the ball so he wouldn't take a sack. That disturbed me. I'm not even a Lions fan, and that just made me mad watching it on Sunday Ticket as we were playing the Chiefs. Like, I was like, what is going on? And then Tua Tagovailoa is after that, 36th. Only 32 teams in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa has the 36th EPA per play. Not good at all. And then also, will we have to give up the trade for him? Draft picks are very valuable, and, you know, say what you want about Kyle Shanahan or even the way we have this organization structured since this past draft, but like Samuel Cosmi was a hit with the 2nd round pick. Benjamin St-Juste has been a really good 3rd round pick. We've drafted 3rd round really well for the past few years. Benjamin St-Juste, De'Ami Brown showed a little something last week, but Benjamin St-Juste has definitely been our best performing corner. Is it safe to say he's our best corner on roster already? Don't know yet, but so far this season, he's played like our best corner. Granted, it's been a smaller sample size compared to William Jackson and Kendall Fuller, because against the Saints, he only played like 12 snaps, while everybody else was like in the 30s and 40s. But either way, Benjamin St-Juste has been a hit so far. Antonio Gibson was a 3rd round pick last year. Terry McLaurin was a 3rd round pick the year before that. So these high draft picks matter. Even the 2nd and 3rd rounders, even just beyond the 1st. You don't want to give up a 1st for Tua, definitely. I'm not giving up a 1st for Tua. But even beyond that, 2nd and 3rd rounders, I don't know. We've been finding some gems in the 2nd and 3rd round. But now let's go to why it should happen. First of all, the Miami Dolphins offensive line is one of the worst in the NFL, and ours is top 10 even with the injuries that we have. So this will be by far the best offensive line he's had since he's touched the NFL. Granted, in Alabama, he had one of the best offensive lines in college, easily top 3, and he was still getting hurt behind them. But I don't know. Also, you can kind of say he's basically Taylor Heineke with more accuracy, definitely more arm strength, maybe slightly more mobility, somewhere in the same range, but probably worse decision making so far. But he's basically just a more talented, naturally talented, stronger, slightly more accurate, and most importantly, stronger armed version of Taylor Heineke. And also, to add why we should do it, I'm definitely in the boat of you need a quarterback to have sustained success in the NFL. You need a franchise quarterback. This league is literally built around the quarterback position. It's not the 1980s anymore. First of all, a great defense is great, but top defenses don't last year to year like quarterbacks do. Aaron Rodgers has kept the Packers in playoff contention and Super Bowl contention for 10 plus years now. Name a top defense that's lasted 10 plus years since Aaron Rodgers has been in the league. You can't. I mean, even the Buccaneers defense fell off a cliff after this past year. Our defense fell off a cliff. The Rams defense still good, but it's not what it was last year. It's hard to maintain a top 5 defense in the NFL. And then even beyond that, and the reason for that is, first of all, it's just hard to maintain 11 guys versus 1, but also the rules are literally set up for defenses to lose. A great throw from a great quarterback to a great catch by a great receiver is always going to beat great coverage. Literally just by how the rules are set up nowadays. Back in the 1980s, no, it was a little bit more even. Now the rules are literally set up, even Tom Brady admitted it. Everybody knows this. The rules are set up for defenses to lose. So it doesn't matter how great your defense is. The best defense will lose to the best quarterback because the rules are literally set up for the best quarterback to beat the best defense. Like I keep saying, great quarterback play equals points. Points equals views. Views equals more money for the NFL. And that's all they care about at the end of the day. That's why they have all of these crazy rules to protect the quarterback that don't even necessarily make sense. But when in doubt, they're always going to err on the side of the quarterback, on the side of the offense, because that's their moneymaker. Now, nobody wants to see 80 to 80 games. Now, nobody wants to see 80-something points to 70-something point games. But when in doubt, the offense is definitely going to get the benefit of the doubt. And that's why you need an elite quarterback to really matter. And a lot of these teams out here aren't great top to bottom. The Bills aren't perfect top to bottom. The Chargers aren't top to bottom. The Ravens are definitely not top to bottom. But they just have these elite quarterbacks to elevate their play. Maybe the only teams out there that are just straight up top to bottom that you can maybe argue are just great around the quarterback, excluding the quarterback, are the Cardinals and the Browns. And the reason the Cardinals are undefeated and the Browns are struggling is because Kyler Murray is just that much better than Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield has one of the best rosters in the NFL, but the reason a lot of people doubt them as Super Bowl contenders is because Baker Mayfield isn't elite. He's not bad. He's just not Kyler Murray. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Pat Mahomes, a lot of these guys out here. Russell Wilson. There's so many of them you can name, and then that's another point. So many teams are finding their franchise quarterbacks. More and more quarterbacks are considered elite quarterbacks. So many teams have franchise quarterbacks that the bar has moved. But even on top of all of that, I definitely believe in being aggressive to go get your quarterback. Because again, like the scenario I gave, maybe you can find a way to finesse for Tua without giving up a second or a first round pick. Now you have the rest of the season to see what he can do. And if you're ready to move on from him, or maybe you want to give him another year, you still take a quarterback high in the draft like a Malik Willis or Matt Corral and let them learn behind them. And if Tua sucks the rest of this year and next year, you already have your guy drafted that's been sitting on the bench and you're grooming him. I'm definitely Mr. Swing for a quarterback. Now, me personally, I'm not a big Tua fan, but if we're just talking about finding an elite quarterback, period, I'm very aggressive. I'm all with being very aggressive. Maybe not Tua's case, maybe not exactly Tua's case, but just in general, do what you got to do to get a franchise quarterback, man. Also, some people feel like Tua coming out of college in 2020 is a way better prospect than any of these quarterbacks coming out of college in 2022. Granted, I love Malik Willis, Matt Corral, and Carson Strong. Those are my top three. Kenny Pickett is starting to grow on me. Desmond Ridder is starting to grow on me. And those have been my top three since the offseason. You can go back and look at my streams and videos. I've been saying those three over Sam Howell and Spencer Rattler since the offseason before the season started. I'm glad everybody else is starting to catch up a little bit, or some people may still disagree. But I like Malik Willis and Matt Corral a lot. I think their ceilings are higher than Tua as far as just athletic ability and arm talent potential and things like that. But a lot of people generally feel like this draft class is very weak, which may be good for us because maybe we can get a Malik Willis or Matt Corral later in the first round and we don't have to trade up for them. You know, a lot of these great quarterbacks out here, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, were not taken in the top 5 of their respective drafts. They kind of fell into the middle of the first round. And then on top of that, another reason why this should happen, the Burgundy and Gold may be able to finesse a player or two off the Dolphins. On our end, you may be able to include Landon Collins in that trade and free up a lot of cap space and to decrease what the Dolphins require from us for us to get Tua from them. And then on their end, maybe you can get Xavier and Howard in a weird trade where you send Landon Collins or Fuller or William Jackson for Xavier and Howard in an included package with Tua and draft picks or whatever goes on. And now you have one of the best corners in the NFL. And I like William Jackson a lot. I still believe in him. And I feel like we set him up for failure. He's a man cover corner. We have him in zone a lot of the time. But if you could trade William Jackson for Xavier and Howard, hey man. So you never know. I mean, the Dolphins are struggling with this Xavier and Howard situation anyway. So they'd probably be more likely to come up off of him because of that. They may be willing to get rid of him for less of a cost than they normally would because he wants to get paid. And they just don't feel like it's worth paying them all of that money. And then also, last reason why it should happen, Tua is definitely not Herbert, as we can clearly see. Hindsight is 2020. But bringing over Tua would still be something exciting. Would definitely get the fans a little bit more engaged. Not all of them. A lot of people hate Tua. And again, I'm not a big fan of Tua. But I would at least be more interested walking into Sundays to see what's going to happen. Not necessarily walking in there like, oh yeah, we got Tua, we're more likely to win games now. Definitely not. I'm not assuming we're about to win more games because of Tua, especially immediately. But it'll be more interesting to watch, which also would be a reason for the stands to be filled up more. So if Dan Snyder, you know he likes to get his hands dirty and influence things when he shouldn't, and poke his nose into duties, responsibilities, and places they shouldn't be. Maybe Dan Snyder uses Tua as a way to get the fans back into the stadium again. With how empty they've been, we've literally been dead last in fan attendance in the NFL this season. I mean, remember 2012 with RG3, our team was terrible, but RG3 brought excitement. He brought hope to the fan base, and the stadiums were full. I mean, we started off, what, like 2-6 before the bye week, and then after the bye week, we went undefeated until the playoffs. RG3 got hurt. We were up 14-0 in the Seahawks. Then we never scored again. I believe we lost 24-14. So I honestly believe that team was going to at least go to the Super Bowl. Not sure about winning it, but I just nobody could stop the RG3 Alfred Morris Reed option. But either way, before that bye week, we were 2-6. And coming out of the bye week, before we knew that we were about to just go on this crazy streak, this magical streak that us as a fan base will never forget, the stadium was still more filled up than it is now. A quarterback brings excitement to the fan base, whether it's warranted or not. It's always going to bring in more fans. So you never know. Dan Snyder may look at that and be like, well, let me at least try to, even if this doesn't help us long term, like a lot of people hope it does, at least right now I can sell some more tickets. Now let me explain to you why it won't happen. We just talked about why it shouldn't and why it should, but we're going to talk about why it won't and why it will happen. For why it won't happen. First of all, the fact that all of this is just out and the deal isn't done, even if there was a deal in place, you know, when things get leaked, at least one of the teams involved is likely to back out, especially once they see the general public's perception on it. Sometimes they'll leak out information like a such and such may trade for such and such, and then when they see the fans get angry over it, they'll be like, nah, just kidding, that was just a report. So us even knowing that this is possibly going down may ruin the trade in itself. Also, even just Deshaun Watson getting sent to the Dolphins will more than likely be giving up all kinds of legendary amounts of draft capital, and they don't even know if Deshaun Watson will end up on the exempt list or not. So that's definitely a huge red flag right there, a huge obstacle to overcome for this trade to even happen. Because we're not getting Tua without the Dolphins getting Deshaun Watson, period. Also, why it won't happen. There are so many other quarterback options. Derek Carr, I mean, with the fallout with John Gruden and all of that crazy stuff that's going on that's really attached to us, but with him getting fired and all of that, and their team having no real direction, even though they're playing well overall, Derek Carr may choose to go somewhere else. Derek Carr may be an option to bring in, and he's definitely a top 15 quarterback. He's not like the most long-term option because he's kind of up there in age, but you can definitely get at least like another 5 to 8 good seasons out of him. I don't consider him an elite quarterback, but with a great team around him, you probably can be a Super Bowl contender with a Derek Carr. And then there's also Marcus Mariota, Garoppolo, and Trubisky, who you can get for cheaper than a Derek Carr. Because if you try to trade for Derek Carr, it's going to cost you a lot, but maybe you wait till he becomes a free agent. But there's just so many other already in the NFL quarterbacks that are options. And then on top of that, like I've already spoken about, you have all of those draft options. Maybe they look at Tua and whatever price the Dolphins are putting on his head, maybe Ron Rivera and company are like, nah, we'll just go ahead and take our quarterback in the draft. Y'all are asking for too much. And maybe they're higher on the quarterback class than a lot of the media is. Like I am. I love a lot of these guys. I'm a big fan of Kenny Pickett as well. He's starting to emerge. And again, even though I'm not a big Sam Howell fan, he looks better this year than I thought he would. I just prefer at least 5 guys over him as of right now, especially with their elite traits. I mean, Malik Willis does things you can't teach. Matt Corral does things you can't teach. Carson Strong's arm talent, you just can't teach some of that stuff. So that's why I like those, because if Scott Turner can do what a lot of these other offensive coordinators are doing and build their offense around their quarterback strengths and to hide their weaknesses, you can have elite quarterback play. And then also, Philly has the Dolphins first rounder right now. So like the Dolphins first rounder can't even be included in this trade for Deshaun Watson. Their 2022 first rounder belongs to the Eagles right now. That's why the Eagles, as of today, if the draft were to happen today, have 3 top 10 picks, I believe right now, at least top 12, which is crazy. That could be franchise changing for them, and that scares me as a burgundy and gold fan, but that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, the Eagles have the Dolphins first round pick right now for this upcoming draft. So what else do the Dolphins have to offer the Texans? To not immediately get a first round pick in this upcoming draft definitely hurts the possibility of this trade even happening. I mean, of course they can include players and a bunch of other first round picks, combinations of seconds and third rounders, but not having that 2022 first round pick definitely comes back to bite the Dolphins if they do really want Deshaun Watson. And then on top of that, there's been a recent report. Now let's talk about why it will happen. And there's much less reasons why it will happen versus why it won't happen. But again, a lot of people, the general consensus around the NFL as far as owners, GMs, and head coaches, is that this draft class is weak. And so why this will happen would be because Ron Rivera and company are one of those teams, and they prefer to take a chance on Tua than to take a chance on a Malik Willis, Matt Corral, and these other guys. I disagree, but that's definitely a strong reason why this would happen. Also, why this will happen, the NFL could possibly not put Deshaun Watson on the exempt list and get his suspension out the way this year. So when the Dolphins are not sorry, they're 1-5 this year, is really hopeless for them already to an extent. So like bringing on Deshaun Watson this year and he's suspended, I mean, what do you have to lose? You're not going to win games anyway. So when they're ready to be good in 2022, now Deshaun Watson is not suspended. He's not on the exempt list. He's ready to go, and they have a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And that's really it for why it will happen. I mean, it's just, you can see how much less likely it is to happen. I mean, you can see how there's just so many more reasons why it won't happen versus why it will, but there are some reasons. And now in summary, again, Tua is talented, and it would be nice to have 2 of the top 5 picks from the 2020 draft. And again, I'm very aggressive when it comes to getting a franchise quarterback. Just try what you got to do. But at the same time, not only is Tua not look good, which is not a problem for me because maybe he can go to a different situation. Again, he's behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, and then if he were to come here, he would be behind the top 10 offensive line in the NFL, and I'm pretty sure that would help him a lot, even as far as injuries. But again, he's so injury prone, and that hip thing has bothered me since he was coming out of Alabama. So I just don't know, man. Also, Michael Phillips had a good point. He said on Twitter, Tua rumor was obviously planted to distract from Hopkins' blowback from cutting him, which was designed to cover up the Sean Taylor ceremony, which was hastily planned to cover up for the Bruce Allen emails, which were of course leaked to distract the media and fans from the smoke machine controversy. And he may have a point there. This may just be throw Washington's name in that trade so they can stop talking about Dustin Hopkins and the Sean Taylor situation. And again, the Bruce Allen emails, smoke machine, it just seems like everything that happens is to cover up the previous thing. Also, this will be so bad for Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, he kept getting benched for Tua in 2020, even though he was clearly the better quarterback that year. And so for him to come over here, not even really get a chance because he gets hurt the first game of the season in the first half, for Tua to follow him back over here, you know how mad Ryan Fitzpatrick would be? I mean, that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. It doesn't affect us. But like, man, poor Ryan Fitzpatrick just can't escape him, bro. Tua's just out here following Ryan Fitzpatrick. And also, it's been reported that the Texans are not interested in getting Tua Tagovailoa at all. So it's very likely that Tua will go to a third team. The Texans don't want him, even in the Deshaun Watson trade. The Dolphins won't need him once they get Deshaun Watson. So somebody's going to have to take Tua. And if there aren't enough teams interested, maybe Tua will go for a cheap price. Who knows? And then lastly, it's just not going to happen. Let's just go ahead, and I think it's like a 0.001% chance this happened. Because first of all, Washington reporter Sam already reported that Washington has not had contact with Houston or Miami and is not in on the Tua Tagovailoa situation. And then soon after that as well, JP Finlay said that when he asked the Washington football team, he got a hard no. And they even said, quote, "It's all BS," unquote. And then Ben Standig also came out and said Washington is not in discussions with Miami or Houston regarding a QB trade, according to a source close to the situation. But he also said that the trade deadline is November 2nd and deals could come out of nowhere, so we'll see. But as of right now, those reporters that are pretty close to the organization are saying that the Washington football team want nothing to do with Tua. But who knows if that's accurate? Who knows? Because honestly, who knows what the team is thinking right now? Honestly, on either side, whether we want them or whether we don't, why would Ron Rivera or Martin Mayhew or any of these guys be obligated to tell a Washington football team media member how they really feel about the situation? So that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about the situation. Please let me know if you want to, if you don't, why and why not. Also, please like this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And as always, I appreciate all of the support, man. Big shouts out to everybody that donates to the channel. A special shouts out to everybody that's a sponsor, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now, man. I really appreciate y'all. Again, I'm big on being aggressive for quarterback. Tua is just not the guy I want to be that aggressive for. Maybe if we can get him for like a late round draft pick, like a 5th, and then we have the rest of the season to see what him or Taylor Heineke can do, it's kind of like, why not? But anything a third, like a third is even pushing it, but like a 2nd or a 1st, definitely not for me. Again, I'm one of those guys that truly believes you need an elite franchise quarterback to really matter in this league, especially as far as longevity goes. But I'm just not a big fan of Tua like that. Wasn't a huge fan coming out of Alabama. But again, if we can get him for like a 5th or a 6th round pick, you gotta go do that. I mean, regardless of the Deshaun Watson trade happening or not. If Tua's being thrown out there on a fishing hook for a 5th or 6th round pick, I would say go do it. But yeah, man, I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.